coming through. There's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. MASLOWS, hierarchy of needs. If you can't spell hierarchy, that's fine. If you can spell Maslow's, it'll pop right up. You get to learn about survival mode just a little bit. People kept asking me the right question. Do you have any friends or family member that you can go to? And I tell them the right answer. No, I do not. Just because I'm related to somebody doesn't mean they care. Just because somebody calls me family doesn't mean they are. Just because somebody calls me friend doesn't mean that they treat me like a friend. There are a lot of people that when they assume that you're retarded, are going to treat you like they're retarded. Try to take control of your entire life. Because in their mind, you're retarded. Well, that's not okay. Now, I am headed up. I'm going to spend the very last of the change that I dug up to try to purchase myself some coffee at the center market. They're the only place right now. After that, I'll have no money for the rest of the month. I'm screwed. On the bright side, there isn't one. I'm not going to have the money to pay my insurance on my car next month. I'm not going to have the money to buy gas. I'm not going to have the money to get food. I'm not going to have the money for anything. Alright, I got to let that person go. I have right away. The guy who's on the front cover of this, that's registered Nebraska sex offender off the Franklin Hornet. I told on him, we did not like him. But like most predators, he picks people that are vulnerable. You like to use the word weak. Weak is not the right way to say it. Perhaps somebody is not as physically as strong as you, but that doesn't make them weak. Obviously, mentally, I am a powerhouse. I'm also overwhelmed. That's not a choice or a decision that I made. Right on my butt. I don't think it's necessary for him to follow me that close. Anyway, there's no way for somebody to try to make a living with all this going on. There is no way for somebody to be able to power through these disabilities. And the assumptions of the disabilities, that right there is the major disability. Your assumptions. The fact that you don't keep up with time. You don't pay attention. Now, for me, for somebody who is not interested in sex, there's actually a flag for me. There's all this color coding and all that for the LGBT community. And for me, apparently I am part of the LGBT community because I am not interested in sex at all. And the colors for that don't actually matter to me. They don't actually matter to me. I don't care what color flag you make specifically for people who don't care about sex. That makes no difference to me. None. How about we not focus on colored flags and we start focusing on actual rights? Or is that too much? All my predators had to do was pretend that I was on drugs. Because many of my predators were police officers. When you're a homeless person, you get used to it. Your guilt is assumed. If somebody victimizes you, well, you're in the wrong because you're a homeless person. God bless America, right? Let's make sure I didn't drive up here for nothing. I'm going to have to count out my change. I've been pushing myself a lot harder today than I should be. $1, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 5 and $1. All right. $2. I think that's enough for a coffee. I'm gonna see if there's anything else on the seat. If absolutely necessary, I'm sure I can dig out another quarter or two out of the car. This is physically and mentally exhausting. See, the government doesn't care about you. Their job is to deny you. For somebody like me who's gone through this much, for this long, for all my friends and family to pretend I'm a horrible person because people did bad stuff to them. A lot of people who wanted to speak up, but they'd ignored me for over a year before Natalie's death. Over 2 years for most of them. As soon as I hurt my back and couldn't do everything that they were needing somebody to do. And by the way, I was the guy who did it for free. People asked me for help because they knew I wasn't going to ask them for money. They knew that I was going to show up. They knew that I would make the time for them. When people made the time for me, they didn't make the time for me. They made the time to do what they wanted. In most cases, it was to tell me what to do, what to think, what to feel. And that feels horrible. At least I got some bread to eat. My stuff's still up in the mountains. I don't have the money for storage. I don't have the money to pay my phone bill. I can't go to any of the services here because they will victimize me for going. And then, of course, they want to send me there with an addicted homeless person who doesn't show up and repeatedly tries to pawn me off on others. That's probably not going to work out too good. Nicole Vertner at the Adventist Health. She's also a volunteer at the church. She also backtracked. On the bright side, I got it recorded right here on this YouTube channel. You know, one of the biggest myths out here is that disabled people just don't want to work. I loved working. What I didn't love so much was so many people not paying me. People ripping me off over and over again and thinking it's okay. And it really was, because nobody was ever going to do anything about it. When it come to the abuse that Natalie Bollinger had to go through, her and I had to go through a lot of the same stuff. Always giving up parts of our lives for our siblings. Like, sure, I could be free of my mom and my dad, but then I'd have to not care about a lot of other people. And I really do care about my mom and my dad too. I just know that they're not good people. I know the kind of people they choose to be, and also the kind of people that they pretend to be. Sure, I'll give that people may change, but only if they show me that change. My life was hell. I do get free long distance and international calls. That's positive, right? So there's a guy I knew in Boulder, Colorado. He said he was going to take over a dump. He said everything you could ever possibly need, people have thrown away in a dump. You can make yourself a mansion in a dump. He's right. Well, it sounds like they're going to be pretty loud. There's a big old truck right next to me. I don't really feel safe backing out. Not because I'm afraid that somebody will see for crap out on the other side of that white truck. So I'll just be patient. They're not causing any problems. They're not threatening anybody. So they're all right where they're at. I've had to give a lot of people's phone numbers on Facebook and YouTube. It should not have been necessary. The police should have done their jobs to begin with, but they didn't. If a police officer was to go talk to Shannon Alvarado, he might believe everything that she says. If a police officer goes through our correspondence with one another and our recordings with one another, well, he'll be more than making sure that the truth is shown than any kind of BS she wants to sell. Because he'll know better. Same thing with Sarah Bacon. Is any of that stuff that she was saying about the sheriff there, is any of it true? I do what I can to keep you and your kids safe, all of you. That's because your kids are far safer with you than without you. Other than that, your kids are more important to me than you are. I will not apologize for that. However, if you are going to tell me that people are threatening your children over things that you said that were ignorant, first of all, you should not have gone out unprepared. Second of all, you did that. I know that a lot of you thought you were doing some good by arguing with people on Facebook over whether or not I killed Natalie before they found her killer. But I didn't need people to argue on Facebook. I needed them to help me to get the evidence turned in that needed to be turned in. Miss Beaches could have helped with that in just a couple of hours. But in a whole year, over a whole year, she just never got around to it. Finally, the day that she was finally going to keep her word, I got the phone call that Natalie was missing. Natalie knew I was trying to take her to court. So did Tim Beeson, so did Ted Bollinger. They also knew that they screwed up. That's why when Natalie Marie Bollinger got her goddamn brains blown out, I was fairly certain it was one of those two. Both of them had an actual history. Actual history. Both of them, an actual sexual history with Natalie Bollinger. That's right, Ted Bollinger and Troy Bollinger both had sex with Natalie. And she still loved them. A lot of times, we end up taking the blame for everything. Victims, I mean. And if you want to be one of those people who's going to be pissed off because I use the word victim instead of survivor, you kiss my ass. You want to get butthurt over a word and we can have an argument for an hour over whether I should have used the word survivor or victim. But the fact is, just because I survived it doesn't mean it stopped. The social isolation still exists, and you don't stop to understand or comprehend why. That's insanity. Natalie Marie Bollinger got her brains blown out because cops didn't want to do their jobs for either one of us. Natalie Bollinger didn't want to act like an adult. Tim Beeson didn't want to act like an adult. Jonathan Hickson didn't want to act like an adult. Pierre Byron didn't want to act like an adult. Don Bird didn't want to act like an adult. Ken Wilson didn't want to act like an adult. Leah Plunkett did not want to act like an adult. These people seem to think that I have unlimited energy, unlimited money, unlimited funding. It's not true. Natalie and I led very similar lives. She was just far weaker minded. Also, if you look at the messages between Joanna Taylor Smith and I, also between Morgan McNeese and I, it shows why I made the Michelle Brannick post. I didn't want anybody to hurt Natalie or Alicia or Maddie Boa when I ended my existence. You noticed I gotta say ending my existence so that people don't get butthurt and offended that anybody would want their life to end over this kind of abuse. Well, you pretend it doesn't happen. It must be a figment of our imagination if we're homeless. Homeless people choose to be abused. We choose to be homeless. We choose to be victimized. It's our fault. You always make it the victim's fault, don't you? It's the American way. When you blow off the victim, when they come to you for help, and they beg you to end their existence, that's because you didn't hear them the first 100 times that they came to you for help. When you want to be angry that the victim is not being patient enough, but you want it right now. That reminds me, I should make one about my dad. He wanted to have some stuff taken off the internet. No. That's not okay. You know what was going on when my dad got a hold of me? I was having that issue where I was poisoned in Hood River, and yeah, my hospital paperwork shows it. Shows what substances were in my body. Glad it wasn't fentanyl, I guess. Meanwhile, these predators try to play on the fact that this is adult subject matter I'm talking about. I shouldn't have to do this in public, and anybody who wants to complain that I'm doing this in public, well, you know what? You all had the opportunity to help me to do it in private. But you were too busy telling me how to think and how to feel and what to do. Trying to pretend that your opinions are the same as a fact. And then you want to be heard. It's your turn to be heard. It's always your turn to be heard. And the more you make it your turn to be heard, the more afraid I am to speak. But I have to say these things. I have to get them out. Do my friends and family follow my channel? No, the only people that follow my channel are predators and lazy people. Because it's about entertainment. On the bright side, I do have a YouTube where I can speak up. You know, Megan Missigatis wanted to say, it's not fair that you have a YouTube and I don't. I wouldn't have a YouTube if it wasn't for Jerry Sparks of Belgrade, Montana, who I knew from Chapel, Nebraska. You know, it cost me a lot of money to move all over the place to see people who promised they were going to help me. And a lot of those places, people were understanding of the fact that I wasn't going to do their drugs. Joshua Rayborn never once tried to push me to do meth with him, ever. He did his drugs in private. It's recorded on my channel, by the way. His words, in his voice. Yeah, that's right. I speak up for a reason. Because somebody has to. But who hears me? You only hear my predators. You get to see how superficial the United States is. How important looks are, and money. Looks and money. Looks and money. Popularity is pretty important. A lot of people knew what Farnsworth was doing and didn't want to turn him in because they used to be friends with him. And a lot of people were victims of Farnsworth who didn't want to try to turn him in because why? Because they'd already tried alone. Nobody would go in with them and the cops didn't care. I'm trying to... Oh my God, my fucking back is killing me. Oh. If I do what you want and go where you want and jump through all these hoops that you want, are you going to help me how I need? No, you're all going to make empty promises. When it comes to someone who's autistic, we're used to being blown off by literally everyone. Give us a time and a date and keep that time and date. I'm not sure if y'all paid close enough attention. I told you I'm mean. I posted up today why. Don't be mean to me, I'll be mean back. I used to be nice and non-confrontational and go the other way. With Natalie Bollinger, I wasn't allowed to do that. Tim Beeson wasn't going to allow it. Maddie Boa wasn't going to allow it. And the friends that I had to go to were a bunch of druggies, just like Natalie. We knew a lot of the same people. It didn't matter who I was consistently. What mattered is that a heroin addict was embarrassed in Virginia and that she was pretty. Gross.